everything else here. I see the red light is on for everything, so I'm gonna actually try and deal with this again since there are able to be issues in terms of with Audacity. So being able to actually do this for the In the Hot Seat podcast, and welcome everyone for this week's episode of the In the Hot Seat podcast. I got a double header this week for NXT in your house and as well for WWE Hell in the Cell, both back to back on Saturday and Sunday this past weekend. I'm going to be talking about who won, what went down, and everything else in between that happened and everything. So, for both shows, we didn't see no kickoff matches at all. So, they've been keeping up with that theme for basically for quite some time. So, with that being said, it's just basically about uh, basically what went down for the main card and everything, and being able to deal with that to see what happened for in your house. That's what I'm starting off with first. And we had the six-man tag, Tony D'Angelo dealing with Legado del Fantasma on this one, and being able to see who will be running things for NXT on that note, and to see who will be able to not only run things but do things their way. And with a twist on this one, if one of them lost, they would actually be a part of either family on this one. So it was basically a must win to see who would be able to stand tall on this one. It was a really fun way to actually start things off for NXT, definitely for sure. Definitely a banger for sure on that, since I don't really always use that word too much, but it definitely was that for sure. Um, to be able to start things off with NXT in your house, and to actually have, with this one, being able to have Tony D'Angelo and his family getting the win. So that makes sense, and as well, not only just adding more to the family, but Legado del Fantasma being able to not only join Tony D'Angelo, but to see if these two stables can actually work well together. I'm sure there would be tension and possibly even more added to their stable wars, if you want to put it this way, on that. So it should be interesting to see how well, or maybe not, I guess, they would get along, or at least try to. So that should be something interesting to see how things would transpire. We had the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship match on the line. Toxic Attraction dealing with Katana and as well Kaden on this one. I definitely feel like it was Katana and as well Kaden dealing with their moment in time. I really wanted them to actually win, and I felt like this would have been the perfect time for them to do so, but Toxic Attraction actually stops them and retains the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. So hopefully at this point, since I know the main roster is looking to have a tournament for the Women's Tag Team titles, so we'll see what will happen on that in terms of for Katana and as well Kaden on this one. Hopefully they will be a part of that and maybe get their chance to actually be Women's Tag Team Champions at some point then. So whenever that tournament does happen, I would like to see that. Definitely for sure. Then we had the North American Championship on the line, Carmella Hayes and as well Cameron Grimes on this one. These two are giving it their all and working very well with one another, and actually having not only dealing with Carmella Hayes and Cameron Grimes to see who will be the North American champion, but to see who will be able to move forward. And we have basically Carmella Hayes gaining back the NXT North American Championship, and I'm sure he'll probably deal with someone like a Solo Sikoria or someone like that next, and maybe I don't know what happens afterwards for Cameron Grimes. Maybe eventually, seeing him be a part of the main roster, I think that would be really cool. I think he would definitely do well there. So I wouldn't mind seeing that in the future for him. And then we get to the NXT Women's Championship on the line. Mandy Rose and Wendy Chu on this one. Wendy dealing with basically inner demons, getting frustrated at times, trying to stop Mandy Rose. She almost did. That would have been awesome to see him win. But Mandy Rose found a way to come back and as well keep her NXT Women's Championship. So it's really questionable to see who would stop a Toxic Attraction this time around. Um, we'll see what happens with that. I feel like at least for the tag team titles, that's would have been one of the main points where they would have been stopped, but that didn't happen. Toxic Attraction actually keeps their titles, so they get to stand tall there for in your house. And then we get into the tag team championships when we had the Creed brothers and so Pretty Deadly on this one. Really awesome back and forth matchup, especially seeing that shooting star press at one point as well. So really getting in your face. So basically with this, I really thought Pretty Deadly would actually keep the tag team titles. They didn't have that much of a long one, which I would have liked to see. I'm sure they'll be tag team champions again, but the Creed brothers actually getting the win and not letting Roderick Strong actually hold them down and being able to stand tall, get the tag team titles, really well worth it, especially if they're going to be on their own and not deal with anyone from Dynamite. And I think they will actually be well on their own as a tag team unit by themselves. So I can see that happening at some point, depending what happens with Roderick Strong and everything. Since he is still looking to stick around with Diamond Mine and everything. So we'll see what happens with that. Then we get into the NXT Championship. On the main event, Braun Breaker and also Joe Gacy. Joe Gacy getting into the head of Braun Breaker, taking his dad at one point and kidnapping him with his henchmen. They try to get involved, but Braun Breaker is able to come back, find a way and get his payback, be able to stop Joe Gacy on this and hopefully putting an end to everything and keeping his NXT title, which is fine and cool. So I'm curious to see where things are going next between the two and everything. That would be really cool. And I also wanted to see eventually, hopefully, The Fiend and Joe Gacy at one point. If The Fiend ever comes back and I see the similarities between the two. And Joe Gacy has been one of my favorite characters on NXT right now. So that was in your house. Definitely, if you're watching on the YouTube version of this, leave your thoughts on what you thought about NXT in your house in the comment section. And then we get into the next thing where we got Hell in a Cell. I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of Hell in a Cell and everything, but this show actually ended up surprising me. And even though there was basically one SmackDown match, it did feel like how it used to be, where they had a Raw and SmackDown pay-per-views, and um, with each pay-per-view, there would be either a Raw one or a SmackDown one. So it kind of felt like that from 2016, a little throwback there. Even though there was one SmackDown match, I thought when we got to see Natalya and Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's title, since Natalya won that six-pack challenge on SmackDown. So I would have liked to see that, but that didn't happen. But we did get to see a really strong start. Definitely for sure one of my favorite matches of the night. Raw Women's Championship, Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, and Asuka. Even though it wasn't in the cell itself, having it be not only the opener but a triple threat match, and being able to have it be tough to see who would be able to get the win. It could have went to anyone at that point. Asuka being able to come back and winning the title again back. Becky Lynch wanting to get her championship again as well, and Bianca Belair wanting to actually retain her title, do everything that she can to keep going with the Raw Women's Championship. And Becky Lynch trying to deal with some nonsense and her own shenanigans. Bianca Belair wasn't having it, and she was able to retain, so that made sense for sure. So I will see where things will go for Bianca Belair, to see who she would be facing next. Will she still continue things with Becky? Will she still be dealing with Asuka at this point? And especially with Money in the Bank coming around the corner, and then being able to worry about that, and who will be able to possibly win the briefcase and as well possibly cash in. So there's that too. A lot going on with that. So Bianca Belair getting her win, keeping the Raw Women's title was really cool. Even though it wasn't in the cell itself, like I mentioned, it was still really cool, and definitely another banger for sure. Then we get into the 2-on-1 handicap match, Bobby Lashley and dealing with Almas, and as well for MVP, all in this match and everything. And we saw things from Almas in this, trying to stop Bobby Lashley. Same thing with MVP, but MVP ended up being able to tap out by Bobby Lashley, and as well making him win, and as well hopefully move on past this, and it looks like he clearly wants to deal with Roman Reigns, whether it be for the WWE title or the Universal title. I don't know if they're going to have things separate again out of that. So Bobby Lashley ideally wanted to deal with Roman Reigns and making the challenges there. So that should be interesting. And Roman Reigns actually having potential challengers, so that's really cool there. To see who would be facing at Money in the Bank and SummerSlam. So there's that. And then we get into Kevin Owens and dealing with is it either Ezekiel or is it Elias? And Kevin Owens making that well known to everybody throughout the match that Ezekiel is Elias and everything. He busted it open. Ezekiel having a strong showing. Kevin Owens coming back and actually getting his win there and actually making this feud fun. And he can go up against anyone and do something which is really crazy, dealing with Ezekiel and everything and being the brother of Elias and everything and just trying to, have Elias come back and basically move on from that. So I still don't know if we'll see Elias. I'm kind of just waiting for him to actually show up on the Tron and everything or something at some point and kind of like prove Kevin Owens wrong and then realize that Ezekiel is himself and Elias is himself and they're their own separate people, I guess. I'll leave that in the comments. Is Ezekiel Elias or they're their own separate people? Are they really brothers? Basically, on that point. So I did a poll too on Twitter on that, and it was really interesting. I saw the results for the most part. It was 50-50 on that, so that was interesting. On that, then we get into a first time ever 6-person mixed tag team match. We had the Judgment Day dealing with Edge, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley, AJ Styles, Finn Balor, and then Morgan, and this one getting crazy, chaotic, and out of control. On this one, seeing the brawl, which is really cool on that, and actually having the Judgment Day actually stand tall, which definitely makes sense. Have them be strong. I'm sure they'll want championships and as well to be able to add other people into the Judgment Day as well. I like the idea of having Paige and as well Ciampa on that be added. I don't know how many more people that they want exactly, but I'm guessing if I can have anyone, I think those two would be really cool. Have Paige come back and be a part of the Judgment Day, which would be dope and badass to see, in my own honest opinion on that. And then we get into Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin, the No Holds Barred match, the only SmackDown match that was on the card, which is really weird on that. But anyway, we had Madcap Moss, a new version of him dealing with Happy Corbin. Corbin at times trying to stop Madcap Moss, and he did a little bit, but not nearly as much and everything, and dealing with the brawl and stuff like that. I believe the barricade might have been broken at one point. We did see the use of the steel steps and as well the chair, and that basically had Madcap's payback being a bitch to Happy Corbin and that, so I'm sure he'll be able to move on. Curious how he'll deal with things next. Maybe a title opportunity, I don't know, or deal with somebody else. Have a different type of partner dealing with him and everything, being able to do that. I don't know, so that remains to be seen. So Madcap Moss getting his revenge there, so you definitely love to see that. Then we get into the United States title match between Theory and as well Mustafa Ali. At one point, Mustafa Ali almost didn't get the match and everything. I'm wrong. And dealing with problems and BS by Theory. And after all of that, I was able to actually finally have the match thanks to Adam Pearce for a Hell in a Cell. And these two going at it definitely for sure. I really wanted Mustafa Ali to get the United States title, but unfortunately, Theory comes back and as well keeps the title. So I'm sure things will probably continue on this one, on that, and hopefully Mustafa Ali will be United States champion at some point. That would be really cool to actually see that. So we get into the final match, the main event, and the only Hell in a Cell match that we did get to see, Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins 3. And this one really did disappoint. The chemistry there, always on point between both of them ever since WrestleMania. And he thought this would be the moment to actually have Seth Rollins get his chance to put away Cody Rhodes. They did everything and had kitchen sink and more in this match. Basically, we saw the Texas Bull Rope get involved. Before then, Cody Rhodes was attacked and basically injured by Seth Rollins, so I wasn't sure if he was going to be 100% or even make it to the match, but he was able to honor that and show up. We had the pedigree, wasn't enough. We saw basically a stomp. We saw the sledgehammer get involved, everything and anything that they can and try to do. They basically tried their best, and in the end, Cody Rhodes putting away Seth Rollins, and hopefully going into the next thing, which will be most likely wanting to deal with Roman Reigns. And I feel like he would be the guy to stop Roman Reigns, definitely, for sure, whether it be at SummerSlam, Survivor Series, or even WrestleMania next year. I don't know. That remains to be definitely seen, especially if Cody Rhodes gets to be added into the Money in the Bank ladder match and then waits for his time. That could possibly even happen at this point. So props to Cody Rhodes on that. Definitely needed some well worth it rest for sure. Definitely put a title on him as well at some point. And Cody Rhodes being back has been so real and awesome and dope and everything else. So it's been really cool to see what has been transpiring. So again, props to him. So that ends things for a Hell in the Cell. And that about does it for this week's episode of the In a Hot Seat podcast. Again, if you're watching on the YouTube version, be sure to leave that like, subscribe, and as well hit that notification bell to stay notified and up to date for my latest videos, especially for the In a Hot Seat podcast. And for here on Twitch, we get things early and exclusively before YouTube gets to see it, and before the audio versions on Anchor and Spotify gets to be up. So it makes it really cool. So definitely climbing up there for subscribers on YouTube, almost at 20. So definitely appreciate that. Keep that up, and hopefully get into 20 plus more and keep that growing and everything. And especially here on Twitch with the followers and everything. So trying to get to 50 for Twitch and everything, and keep that growing as well. So again, so dealt with some audio issues with Audacity, so I decided to redo this. And definitely let me know your thoughts, especially on the YouTube side, what you thought about Hell in a Cell, and as well for In Your House for NXT. And there's still a lot more. We still got Impact Wrestling for Slammiversary. We still got NWA Always Ready, and as well the Forbidden Door all this month. So it's going to be packed with a lot of stuff. So I might be back with a doubleheader or review all three, depending on how things are going to be happening. So a lot to get into, especially within the rest of the month. So we are not done for June. I definitely saw it's going to be exciting to see what happens next for NWA, Impact, and as well AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So with that being said, until then, hopefully you enjoyed this week's episode of the In the Hot Seat podcast. I'll catch you guys next time. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day and as well the rest of your week. Until then, I'll see you next time.